Now, the political opportunity here, let's talk about that. Joining me now is New York Congressman Anthony Weiner. He serves with Joe Barton on the Energy and Commerce Committee. Congressman, good to have you with us tonight.
Thanks, Ed.
Why aren't Democrats screaming from the top of every building in Washington that this guy needs to be replaced if he's this close to big oil and has shown his cards when the Democrats are supposed to be the party that's so concerned about climate change and energy and moving the country forward? Why wouldn't you want to try to take this guy out just on the shame alone?
Well, listen, I got to tell you something, because it's not as if the second-ranking member of the Energy and Commerce Committee or the third or the fourth doesn't reflect those views as well. Look, there's an indiscriminate support of the big oil and big business among the Republican Party. And I have some empathy for Joe Barton. First of all, I think he's a good guy, but he was not anything near even the first to say this. In 10 minutes this afternoon on the Internet, here's where I came up with other people who called it a shakedown. Michelle Bachmann, Sarah Palin, Newt Gingrich, Rush Limbaugh, Tom Price, the entire Republican Party. My concern is we shouldn't be focusing on Joe Barton. We should be focusing on what Rahm Emanuel spoke about this weekend. This is a fundamental difference between Democrats and Republicans. They support big business. We support trying to regulate them fairly.
Yes, they do. But all of the people that you named, Congressman, are not in a leadership position. They don't chair any committees. And I have an ethical issue with the Democrats principally here. If you don't have the guts to put the pressure on this guy to get him out of this position, how are liberals supposed to really believe that you're serious about climate change?
Because,
quite
Joe,
frankly, I don't care what Michelle Bachmann says, and I don't think most Americans do.
Well,
you know
listen,
my point here.
Sarah Palin and Rush Limbaugh are the leaders of that party, but the point that I'm trying to make here is I think we've got to keep our eyes on the prize. This is not about Joe Barton. What if Joe Barton tomorrow wasn't the ranking member? Do you think any way that we've moved any closer to the Republican Party learning the lessons here? Absolutely not. He reflects, to his credit, he reflects what Republicans in Washington believe. You know, some people say that the meaning of a gaffe is saying what you really believe and having someone hear it. That's basically what happened here. This was no gaffe. This reflects the values of the Republican Party, and I think focusing on one person is not the thing here. The idea here is very simple. There's one party in Washington that is trying to reel in the worst abuses of big oil, trying to make sure the regulations are there in place and trying to get this cleaned up, and another whose instinctive reaction is to defend big oil. That's who will be in charge in Washington if we allow the Republicans to win in November.
Well, that's the point. I mean, why wouldn't you look out for the people right now? But, of course, you're saying that the entire Republican philosophy is that. Barton has taken $1.4 million from the oil and gas industry since 1990, so I don't think his remarks were inappropriate. Heck, he's bought and paid for by big oil. I mean, he did exactly what they wanted him to do. Now, moving forward, let's talk politics of this. What's the political opportunity here? Just to paint Joe Barton as this is the real Republican Party and not let the voters forget it?
Well, you know, so much of what goes on in Washington is outside the view of many Americans. Most Americans don't keep track of who's regulating what. They're interested in how they're going to put food on the table and how they're going to their job in a tough economy. But I tell you what we are learning here. This is one of those moments, one of those aha moments for the American people, where they get to visualize what the world would be like if the Republicans took over the House of Representatives. Joe Barton, whatever you think of his views, he would be in charge of the most important committee in Congress. So to the extent that most Americans are not thinking about politics, they're thinking about their everyday lives, this is a moment for them to understand that their lives would be very different if the Republicans are successful this November. This is not every election is a choice, and the choice is the Barton philosophy on managing big oil, which is to give them whatever they want, and on our team.
He's your poster child. There's no doubt about it. Congressman, good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks so much. For more